Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Perspectives. We're coming in a little bit past 7 this morning, but we thank you for waiting for us. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Wherever you are joining us from, of course, on air at MTV, also on MTV's Facebook page, Partygrenada, TNR Communications, those of you on Mikey Live, on our own Perspectives page, and also on streaming on Sister Isle in Carriacou. It is June the 7th. Yes, it is. One full week into June already. And yeah, the rains are here. So trust everyone had a really good weekend. And we are ready to begin the week in earnest. I'm Brenda Batiste. It's a pleasure to be with you once more and to say good morning to our expert talk panel of Senator Christopher Diali and Mr. Byron Campbell. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, Brenda. Good morning to our viewers and our listeners. Pleasure to be here again as usual. Adjusting to the rain and the water. We had quite a bit this weekend. And of course, I had a good Thursday. I went hiking on Thursday again with my group.
Oh, nice. Thursday, Corpus Christi.
Yes.
Yeah.
We went very early by the lake, to take a look. They have been doing a lot of cleaning around the lake and what is happening there. And we hiked around it and then went on the lookout. It was really lovely to be up in Granatang that early. The breeze is special.
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
A special breeze
Yes.
up there. So we did have some fun. I didn't get to planting anything this weekend, unfortunately. I'm still preparing. Not as good as my friend Byron here. Everything is ready to go. Still in the preparation phase.
Yeah, morning. Yeah, the rains are here. There's no doubt about it. It's here. Any hesitancy you had, throw that out. It's here positively. And I think the whole island is glad for this, But we prefer the rain in small quantities at a time. Like Saturday showers was really
nice.
a lot, Rivers came down, So we had a cleansing, so to speak, which is probably a good
But
thing.
interestingly, Byron, the land absorbed a lot of it. I didn't see much runoff and a lot of the erosion.
On the west coast though, the rivers came down, so the streams were not red, but certainly. But what I noticed on the weekend too was the Grand Lake generator came in at Grand Mall. Huge machine, It was like that was interesting. But for me, vaccine and vaccinations, Chris. I think, and we are talking about this today, Brenda, with our special guest, but there's a terminology that's been used, herd immunity, and we can talk about that. But I want to change the word to population immunity, because herd relate to other type of animals, other than human beings, I think so. Population, and the other thing I want to do is to that relationship between lives and livelihood. Here we have a vaccine, and there's a clear relationship between being vaccinated and livelihoods, and the economic factors too, Chris. And I think we should. I don't think everybody see it that way. We still have in Grenada a high level of hesitancy. Our numbers are still, in terms of single vaccination, 18,000. Double doses is just about 9,100. So it's low. It's very low. We are not anywhere close to the kind of targets we should be arriving at to give the economy an opportunity. And yes, there's a lot of debate about we've been putting too much emphasis in tourism and not enough in agriculture. Maybe so, there's a debate for that, but we need to look at where we are presently. And the tourism economy linked to the SGU and all of that is the major factor for our employment situation right now. So Chris, you need to come in on this. We need to show the relationship between getting vaccinated and livelihoods. And it's not. I'm not. You might hold me for that to say you might be reckless or you might be irresponsible. Yes, it's your choice to take or not to take the vaccine. But what are the implications to others? Those who, first of all, are unable to be vaccinated for some medical or other reasons. We need to protect them also. And as we always repeat here, what's happening as a result of probably our own success. What's happening in Trinidad?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head there, Byron, in a sense that from a success point of view in Grenada, we haven't had any major cluster, we haven't had any major spike, we haven't had any set of deaths from COVID, and that obviously means people are, well, we nonchalant, you know, why is the need to rush to get this vaccine? There's no major issue here. But look at our society in Trinidad. Trinidad right now is ramping up vaccinations. People are lining up in droves to go and get vaccinated because they know over 500 and something people died in Trinidad within just about a month.
3 weeks.
You know, 3 weeks, and thousands got positive. They have 3 strains of the vaccine of the COVID virus in Trinidad. So it is a situation where, and that happened overnight. In 3 to 4 weeks, that happened. And I mean, if we doesn't listen to the news, whatever we do, but just listening to what happens, and Trinidad is very close to Grenada, both from a family perspective, both from everything else, we're very close to the Trinidadians. And I just can't understand why we as a people are not understanding that this thing could change overnight. Grenada can't take a run on their system, their health system. Can't. We don't have the beds, we don't have the isolation wards, we don't have the thing in numbers for us to get 1,000, 2,000 people in Grenada start to get infected and we start to die. I think we're going to see droves of people lining up to get vaccinated. Couple that, sorry Brenda, and just couple that now with livelihoods. Here it is, we have a solution, possible solution to getting normal and getting back people and industries and sectors getting back to a certain degree. You hear what's happening in England and tourism and people booking now to come to Grenada, and there's a protocol to open back up. I think, you know, once those 2 sectors, the SGU sector and the tourism sector starts normalizing, then we're going to see economic activity and all of those things coming back. Remember the big debate we having about the 4%. The government have always said that this 4% is linked to ensuring that their revenues on a monthly basis normalize. How do we normalize this? That's right. It is about true vaccinations indirectly and getting the sectors back up. So it's all linked. And I am troubled. I am frustrated to understand that our people are not at the point where they see this as a value that must be done, something that is important not only to them, but to our country. You know, I always say, Byron, we must get up one day in the morning and look in the mirror and say, what we could do for our country today. This is certainly something we could do for our country. There's, there's always what the country could do for us, you know, and what government could do for us and this and that. We have the only sector in terms of that is vibrant in Grenada right now is construction. And here we have Trinidad closed down, no cement. Right?
So you see the relationship.
The
relationship.
You mentioned the word. I think you said it was troubling or so. It's really dicey. It's really dicey for us. I mean, when we look at everything, because I think what is happening with us is that we are, you know, digging our heels in and want to stay normal in a very abnormal situation. And it seems as we are not willing to do what it takes to kind of get us over the curve because we're really no longer in that normal state. And so we have the conversations and we just keep hanging on to, oh, we don't have COVID, we don't have a lot of COVID cases. Okay, that had a lot of value and that will continue to have value. But it has moved now from the infection rate to vaccinations. The conversation all over the world is about the country's vaccination rate. It has moved beyond. So pure Grenada with no COVID. But guess what? No vaccinations either. So we're not in any place to laud about. There are reports that, you know, the Prime Minister wrote to the British Prime Minister about the situation with us being on amber because we really want to be on the green. We thought we would have been there. There was a great interview from the Minister of Tourism last week speaking on British press, you know, about Grenada. And they are out there and they're making the plea. But we are not helping. We are not helping the situation. And that is the issue. We just keep... And you hear people say, okay, yeah, let's get vaccinated. Then you see them on Facebook. But why are they forcing us? And, you know, okay, so everybody who comes here should be vaccinated, but we shouldn't be.
We should.
I mean, we can't, okay, so they say, all right, you know, everybody who comes to the cricket needs to be fully vaccinated. Well, why? Everybody that comes to the football needs to be fully vaccinated. Well, yeah, so what happened to us? Listen,
it's
you
the-
cannot eat your whole chocolate cake and want a seat in front
Yeah,
of you.
yeah.
Decide what you want to do. You want a quarter of it? No chocolate cake at all? You don't want to participate? You want to be part of it? We need to be reasonable. Nobody, in the meaning of force, there's no forcing going on.
Yeah.
It's not mandatory. Politicians find themselves in a rock and a hard place. They
Yeah.
cannot announce any mandatory anything. See Dr. Rowley dancing when they're trying to get him to say. So what's it gonna be? Do we have to take it? And all he keeps doing, he is encouraging. You know, because they cannot legislate this. You know, I hope we don't get to that point, the way we in Grenada going. But they cannot legislate it. They have to appeal to people.
We have to have some people dying here for us to get serious about vaccination.
The numbers.
It's just. So all this little cushiness about, we've done well, we've managed well, and but I'm telling you, nobody, right now, for Grenada to be considered for things and all of that, and to even get back to where we want to get to in this situation, vaccinations is a big deal. That is what it is globally. That is what it is. The choice is yours to participate or not. But if you don't want to participate and somebody else have a requirement, guess what? You hold your end, because that person could do what they want to do as well. You don't have the right to infringe on them. As you are saying, they don't have the right to infringe on you. So let's just get that absolutely clear. So if they say if you're not fully vaccinated, you can't go to the cricket, you can't go to the cricket.
There will be consequences
right
for
now,
decisions that you make.
As you look at those people who are digging their heels in, refusing to be vaccinated, but still want to be treated as part of the whole, they are threats to the process. Simple.
Yeah.
There are some people for medical reasons and so on, we get that. But those who are digging their heels in, creating the conspiracies, being rebellious, they are threats to the whole process.
But at this stage in the process, where we have discussed multiple times on multiple media platforms the safety of the vaccine or the speed of the vaccine, all those theories that people came up to say they were hesitant. There were different types, the Pfizer, the Johnson & Johnson, the Sinopharm, all the different types that we're talking about. And everybody just keep, to me, putting an excuse why they should delay and why they shouldn't. Some say they're waiting on the Cuban, some say they're waiting on Pfizer, there's
excuses.
Vaccine is nothing about brands, man. They're all doing the same thing.
Here we have had specialists come on this particular perspective program. Dr. Oles was one. We will have one again from SU this morning, talking about, these are experts in the field and specialists in the field who have come and say, listen guys, all these vaccines are good.
People don't
and people talk about, AstraZeneca is being used here, not being used in the States, they're using Pfizer and so on. But AstraZeneca has been used worldwide. With worldwide success.
Yeah.
I mean, right now in Brazil, which was one of the nations that was a hot zone or a red zone, right now their rates are starting to drop because they're getting people vaccinated. They had a town or a city in Brazil where 80% or 70% of these people were vaccinated, and now they're good.
They're good. Yeah.
So
we're not relating to that. We are relating to a fantasy somewhere. Because what it is that we cannot make the relation. So everything you're saying about Brazil, everything we're seeing in Trinidad, everything we're not relating to that because we have not had the experience. Tell you what, we cannot have the experience. We cannot. We won't survive it.
Yeah. I want the young people to listen. Here's the situation. First of all, in the earlier period, we had more of the elderly persons dying, but now the new variants are going after younger persons. And here is what makes us very vulnerable in Grenada. A number of factors. One, we are opening up the economy in terms of our borders, and so it's porous. And if you've been listening to the news, you heard about someone who came in via Trinidad and Carriacou and wherever. So things are going to happen, and this happened before.
Neither do we know what is among us. Don't forget that, because we have not had mass testing.
Exactly. So this is happening. One, the economy. Secondly, our young people, and they're frustrated and they want to normalize their lives. And if you go around on the weekend, around the country and everywhere, we see congregation, we see partying, we see coming together. I don't see face masks. I see, in other words, they're behaving normal. But what's happening here is the fact that high hesitancy level around the young persons, as high as 80%, 70, 80%. So that tells you what? We are vulnerable. Anything can happen. The solution to this is to be vaccinated.
Probably, Byron, we have to take it another step and
It's not
say
young people
to attend
alone.
any event. You know, you still have to apply to ministry if you want to have 50 persons in an event and so on.
Yeah.
And probably now we need to attach vaccination to that.
Possibly.
Probably that's where we need to take it. You can't get permission to hold an event with 50 or more people unless you could assure me that all of these people coming will be vaccinated.
Yeah.
Probably that's where we have to
Yeah.
take the
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah.
Because I'm not understanding why we are hesitant to do that. We want to go to cricket. All of us want to come to cricket because it's a social event. We go out, we drink, we laugh, we eat, we enjoy ourselves. But if the event organizers say, listen, you have to be vaccinated to come to the cricket.
Yeah.
And you're not about, if you're not vaccinated, you could charge more and go in one section.
Exactly.
And if you're vaccinated, you charge less. This is about you're not vaccinated, you can't attend. Because you know they had a guy in Miami that did a concert, I don't know if you saw this, where he said he charged this band, they charged $20 for vaccinated and they charged $900 for unvaccinated. And he said the amount of people that came for the $20 ticket, he was amazed. Because they thought, you know, the differentiation would cause issues.
And even if they have herd immunity in the US, they're doing a lot of that with events because they're really trying to get more people vaccinated. So they're saying that, you know, that for the events, there's a benefit to being vaccinated. So they're doing all these things, but it's still dangerous, you know, because if you have, there are people who, they would want to go to the event and 900 US is nothing for them. And they will go there and they can be a threat too. That's why I say the unvaccinated, it's a threat to the vaccinated. And it's just, I mean, I am not going to get into
when there's the high hesitancy level.
Because I am a glass full kind of person, but
what type
it
of person?
is very glass full.
Okay.
Instead of half empty.
Right. Positive.
I'm a glass full kind of person. So I am. This whole thing is kind of, it's very, very frustrating. I really empathize, even to the point of sympathizing with those who are at the helm of this thing, trying to lead us to a path. But because whatever happens, they have to manage it and they have to deal with it. And we don't care about that. And we continue to want to be normal in a very abnormal situation. And when there is something that's a buffer between the virus and us, and being the normal we want, we are still refusing to do it. So I don't understand that sort of thinking. As I say, the only thing I see is that we can't relate because we have not had the experience. So I guess Dr. Bedassi would have a lot to tell us about that because we're talking about human behavior and the virus, and he's a trained scientist in that. I'm not. I could just look at it from my area. But I'd like to say congratulations to Linda Straker. She's the interim president of MWAG.
Okay.
I don't think they had a quorum to have the election. So she was appointed to lead them interim while they sort out and they get to that point.
Congrats.
So congratulations,
Congrats,
Linda. Linda is one of Grenada's foremost journalists. She, no matter what you think about Linda, Linda does her work. And she really brings...
She's an independent journalist, or she works for...
She's an independent journalist. She works for quite a few Caribbean agencies, World Press, and of course, local here. She does a lot of writing for Now Grenada and so on and so forth. So, congratulations.
That's an order.
She's the interim president of the Media Workers Association. So listen, getting a lot of things from GULP. What happening?
Byron?
Well, why are you looking at me? Why are you looking at me?
I mean, I'm a child of labor, I suppose. All of us come from the Garyite time, and we became children of the revolution. But at the end of the day, the politics seem to be heating up. I mean,
I tell you,
of the view.
I don't know, where were we? I tell you, the election announced. The election had to announce.
I'm really looking forward to this.
But I tell you what, though, jokes aside, they will not be caught napping.
Obviously not.
There will not be kidnapping.
That is quite
I
clear.
think,
Yeah.
lots of people are reading, a lot of people seem to think that, Dr. Mitchell always calls it earlier
Yeah.
rather than later. So I think, there will not be kidnapping. So people sharpening
But I mean,
up and saying,
NNP's posture as well is tending to send a signal how they're doing
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
With their
Yeah.
current ministers,
Yeah.
they're meeting and at the village level, having, guys, entertain guys, discussions and whether they're cooking and they're drinking.
Yeah.
But that is happening already.
And,
so
and the
there's
fake news relating to that, there was some fake news circulating on the weekend.
Yes.
Who's saying who's going to be running the South and what's
Right.
happening in
Between,
Carriacou, and so
Alexandra Otway-Noel
it's like-
and Senator Nolan Cox.
Cox,
I
yes.
saw that.
Yes, sir.
I read it and I smiled, and I was just waiting for somebody to come out to say that it was not
So, I mean, clearly
But
there's-
there was excitement on both ends. I mean,
But-
yes, fake news it was,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
there was
Yeah.
excitement on both ends. That I saw people in Carriacou
Yeah.
commenting.
Yeah,
they were
yeah,
very
yeah.
excited when they saw that about
Yeah,
Senator
yeah,
Cox.
yeah, yeah.
And there are a lot of people commenting on
Yeah.
Otway Noel that we happy to have you back, yada yada yada. So that fake news,
Yeah.
no, somebody could deliberate
But it
on
raises a
somewhere.
question, Brenda. It raises a question, though. What is going to be the role of social media in the upcoming election?
huge, major.
In terms of fake and
Major.
what's real is,
Major,
so
major.
it's going to be interesting.
That's not even a question. Major.
So that's why the Prime
Major.
Minister
That's where it is.
Minister of Youth.
That's where it is. That's
Because
where it is.
he's going
That
to
is where it
ensure
is.
Yeah.
the youth put in their bubble
Yeah.
and he manages that bubble.
By the
and-
way, talking about him being the Minister of Youth and social media and all
Yeah.
of that,
Yeah.
for all we say about this 74-year-old man,
Yeah.
in the parliament, he's
Yeah.
the only one using his iPad.
Really?
Everybody have a set of paper.
Really?
He
Well,
is
I mean-
the only one using
Using
his
iPad.
iPad. He's also the Minister of ICT.
Right,
So it's a good
okay.
example to set.
They haven't been watching the
But,
Senate.
but no, I watch the Senate all the time. No, all they're good,
Yeah,
all they're
yeah,
over
yeah.
there, all they're good long. I see
Yeah,
people on
yeah.
their phone. I see people, nah, this, yeah, Senate,
Yeah,
this,
yeah,
nah,
yeah,
nah, all they're good over
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah.
Parliament is some techno peasants. But the Prime
Yeah.
Minister, he's always on his iPad or
Yeah.
he's on his phone. You can see, he's working.
Okay.
And that's good to see. So
Course.
don't be fooled.
we-
You might
we-
be saying you need young people. I ain't think so. He seemed to have it covered.
Young at heart and young
Yeah.
and everything. I mean, I have been pushing for us to digitize these things since
Yeah.
I got in the Senate, and also
Yeah.
I think a simple thing as the Gazette. I think the Gazette should
Oh,
be a
gosh, the
document.
Gazette
Yeah.
burns
It's
my
digital
heart.
sent
a
out.
waste of paper.
Yeah,
For,
and,
for the importance of it.
Yeah.
yes.
The fact that it's almost like locked away, like you need a special code to get it.
No,
for
I mean,
all
so-
all our business that
Let
have
me
to
just
go
say
in
that.
it that we should be aware of. That
Yeah.
you can't find it.
I'm a member of Parliament, and I get mine digitally, and
Yeah.
I'm not
I
understanding.
am told it's not digital, so don't you say that.
Well, if they
Tell
scan
me
it
I
and
have
they
to come
send
and
it.
purchase a copy.
No, mine's come digital.
Yeah.
Mine come digital as a member of
yeah,
Parliament.
yeah.
Okay.
Because I asked for it to come digital many moons and they now send it digital. I'm not sure if they're scanning it and send it.
Right.
But it comes to
Okay.
me digital.
Yeah, okay.
Comes to me soft. But for the company, it still comes in hard. Because, when you have the legislations and the laws that come in, they
Yeah.
still
To be
send that.
guided by
But
it.
all of that is digital as well.
Yes.
And the thing about it is that all of these things are done on digital media before they send it to print.
That's right.
I'm just not understanding what is the hold up to
Yeah,
convert.
it's just, I
Chris,
guess
I
it's
don't know,
just
large
the
documents,
archaic
I like to
system.
have a physical copy, large documents.
Right.
But small documents within 10 to 15 pages, I can
No,
read
but
it. But
you know,
after
you-
25 and upwards,
In
Yeah.
the world in which
Yeah.
we live, we
Yeah.
should have choices.
Yeah.
And because it's a digital age,
Yeah.
it also makes doing business easy.
Of course.
Because and especially when you're in companies, you really there are a lot of things in the Gazette that you need to be guided by.
Of course,
you
of
need
course.
to know
I
what
mean-
decisions were made about whatever. So that is a piece, that is a tool that is still very useful in governance, but the way it is distributed
Yeah.
is a total failure.
as a justice of the peace, I get copies. Copies are sent to me to my mailbox. But I don't know, in terms of the population at large, how do they access the Gazette? They
I
have to
suppose they
purchase it?
don't, because very few, if you don't take a subscription to the Gazette, you have to go in some public place and see if you can
And
get a
get a
copy to
copy to
read.
read.
Yeah, or you
Okay.
can go
But
up
what did
and
you think
buy
about
it.
your senator representing the farmers and the resolution he got passed on Caribbean Agro?
That is, he's making a request for the documentation for the legal, the contractual arrangements.
Well, no,
Yeah.
he brought it. The Senate agreed with him, including the government, that the conversations about looking at that whole situation with
The monopoly has
Caribbean,
gone on for too
Yeah.
long.
monopoly of
Yeah.
production
Yeah.
of feed
Revolutionary.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
on is something that we
Yeah.
need to be looked at critically and see how we can improve it.
Have you seen the actual contractual arrangement, the agreement?
No, I haven't seen it, but
Yeah.
he has said
At
that
this
He's
point, we
requested
need
it.
new,
Yeah.
we need new conversation. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
so-
really applaud the boldness,
yeah.
and I think it really came from his engagement. Senator Sinclair seemed to be really in with the farmers,
Engaged.
in with the fishers,
Definitely.
having the conversations with them, and truly representing them. When I listen to him because I know him very well,
Yeah.
because we have lots of conversations and so on.
Yeah.
When I listen to him, he's never representing himself.
Yeah.
He's representing because even some of the things he put across, those are not how he feel about
He's a good
certain
communicator
things.
generally.
Excellent.
Yeah.
He's
And
one
then
of
I
our most
thought,
brilliant minds.
one of the
Yeah.
more interesting things we passed was the virtual asset bill.
Okay.
Something we could talk
Explain
about
that,
in another
Chris.
program.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, it is one of those bills that gives us the authority, led by ECCB, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
As you know the blockchain
Yeah, I saw that.
technology.
You
Yeah.
led that. You led the
Dealing-
debate on that.
Yeah.
Blockchain
I
technology
took you
dealing
in
with
then.
these various bitcoins and
Okay.
how you could trade in that, and the fact that we have already gone to Dcash, and
Yes.
we're going to be going more to electronic media for digital media for trading, and it offers us now as private sector and ordinary individuals opportunity to invest in different instruments virtually.
Okay.
So that, and then being led by central bank, it gives it a certain amount of vindication and authority and so on, that the central bank is reading this and
Confidence too, yeah.
and ensuring that the right protocols are in place in terms of anti-money laundering and so on and
Yeah.
so forth.
And the security of
And the security of it, cyber security.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting development. All the OECS territories have to pass it before it becomes a tradable
Okay.
investment
Okay.
instrument. But two of us have already passed it, Antigua and ourselves, and we're hoping that the other islands will continue to do it. But it is an interesting development. We also pass a suite of other
Yes.
securities document to give again people access to various security instruments. A big problem we have in Grenada now is pension funds have money, but they can't invest this money outside of the region unless they get special permission from the Minister of Finance and to some degree.
Yeah, well,
CCB.
Clico and Bico, I mean, come on.
Yeah,
Give
and,
it back,
and
yeah.
We're
there
shy
just,
about that.
there just
Yeah.
isn't enough instruments for us
Yeah.
to look at. So we need to, it's something that we
Interesting,
need to.
yeah.
Yeah, interesting. We could have
Yeah,
another
talk about it,
conversation on it next week.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I took it, and only take it all in. I took some of it in. I saw you making the presentation and so on and so forth. But again, the Senate always working hard, always very engaging. Enjoy the debates there. Just like to say good morning to the folks online. Again, they say we don't say morning to them, right? So good morning to those of you joining us online. Depo is saying, politics in Grenada is like the sargassum seaweed. You smell it before you see it.
Oh my goodness.
Good morning, Mr. Bayer. Roger Bayer is saying it's amazing that the people who are still reluctant to vaccinate, whenever they eventually do so, it's as though they are doing someone else a favor and not their families, themselves, or their nation. Yeah. Anyway, more conversations this morning. We're talking about directly that, human behavior and how we relate to infectious diseases. And we have a specialist here with us this morning on Zoom from St. George's University. So we take a break and we'll be right back on Perspectives.
Yeah.
Are you gonna wear your mask today? You see everywhere you go, there are rules you got to follow, so don't you say COVID-19 will delay. Take the opportunity to save your community. Don't be that guy, put a mask on your face if you're heading outside. It's your life, my life, more lives will be taken if we don't try. If you feel any symptoms, call the hotline. Stay inside until you feel fine. 6 feet away every day. Keep COVID-19 far from away. Keep Grenada safe. Be COVID-19 smart.
Get Vax. It's your best shot. Hello.
A message from the Ministry of Health.
Welcome back to Perspectives. Those of you who are just joining us, we welcome you to the broadcast and trust that everyone is getting ready to head out on this beautiful Monday morning. And this morning, we just want to extend our deepest condolences to the family of Mr. Gordon Nocky Steele. Heard of his passing on the weekend. So our deepest condolences to his wife, Mrs. Valerie Steele, his daughter Lorraine, and his son Gregory, and indeed all his other family members and friends. Of course, Senator Diali, Mr. Steele was quite a towering figure, literally, of business and culture and so on in Grenada.
He was a family friend.
Yeah.
Knew him for many, many years, and you know, he was a sports enthusiast. He used to play sports. We used to meet in the then days CSC, you know, and we would chat, and whilst we played badminton, he was involved in other things and so on. Oh yes, and of course in the banking community, the Cooperative Bank.
Yes.
He was a leader of that particular institution for many, many years and saw it through its formative years. And you know, he certainly contributed to that landscape in his own right. And of course, he had an impact on our society, and as we
Most
know
definitely.
it. So he's one of those sons of the soil that, you know, we certainly would miss. You know.
Absolutely.
A senior citizen, but certainly a very youthful individual.
Lively.
So, you know,
really lively, very
I do
affable.
extend condolences to the family as
Yeah.
well. I know his daughter and his son, so I mean, and his wife very well. So
and his many friends.
Yeah.
And also our deep condolences to the Simon family of Montparnasse. Of course, he's the father-in-law of our executive producer here, Richie Oliver. So our deepest condolences to Tessa, to Alan, to Alec, all the grandchildren, everyone. Paulo was a really lovely man, you know, and he will be greatly, greatly missed in his community of Montparnasse, and most definitely by his family. May they rest in eternal peace. So this morning, we are having a conversation with Satesh Bedasi. He is a professor of public health and preventative medicine and the Associate Dean for Graduate Studies at St. George's University. As a research investigator, Dr. Bedasi supports community-based participatory research and service activities that dovetail with his research interests, including emerging infectious diseases, zoonoses, food safety and food security, and the pursuit of the One World, One Medicine, One Health concept. Dr. Bedasi's research projects have covered topics including human behavior, climate change and viral infections, zoonoses and One Health, vector-borne disease outbreaks, He's board certified by the U.S. National Board of Public Health Examiners and has completed research fellowships at the Royal Society of Public Health, the Royal Society of Tropical Medicine and Hygiene, the International Society on Infectious Diseases, and the Society of Biology. Dr. Badassi has previously held positions at the University of Trinidad and Tobago and the Ministry of Health in Trinidad and Tobago. He received his Doctor of Veterinary Medicine from the University of the West Indies, his master's degree in public health from St. George's University, and a Doctor of Education from the University of Sheffield in the United Kingdom. From his native Trinidad, where he's just hanging out till we bring him back to the True Blue campus, we say good morning to Dr. Satesh Badassi. Good morning, Dr. Badassi.
Good morning, guys. To join this conversation, and I suspect highly likely that you have replaced the morning cup of coffee for most Grenadians this morning.
All right, okay. So how's Trinidad this morning? I know there's lots of rains on the weekend.
There is a lot of rain, but that's the least of our concern right now. Certainly, we are in the midst of a surge in the COVID-19 outbreak, but there are hope in the horizon as we respond to the current challenge we face.
Right, right. So I'm going to start off with one of your, where you well versed in terms of one of your research work, and in terms of human behavior and our response to viral infections. Dr. Badassi, at this point, and being in Trinidad, you're uniquely perched to answer this from in that perspective as well. How is human behavior undermining collective public health in this pandemic?
Sure. Well, a virus to begin with is an infectious agent. By itself, cannot replicate, cannot be transmitted. Actually requires host. Humans are that host. So the distribution, the transmission, and the impact of viruses essentially is fundamental based on human behavior, its ability to replicate and spread as well. So we are the vehicles and we are the determinants of how our virus will manifest in our society and indeed the world as we're observing today. In terms of our response and reaction to the virus, we have responded quite considerably in terms of all the tools that we already know. Grenada has done a fantastic job from the very beginning. The population has respected the 3 W's: wearing the mask, washing their hands, and watching the distance. And the government, in partnership with St. George's University and Windref, have done an equivalent gold standard of response as it relates to testing, tracing, and treating, the treaties. The only tool remaining is vaccination. Not an old tool that we have used in the past and a tool that we need today to respond, the final effort in terms of managing the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, you asked a question about behavior. That is an interesting question because that's a question that's affecting the COVID-19 pandemic, and in fact, most diseases, whether it's chronic diseases like diabetes or infectious diseases like COVID-19. I am of the view that behavior is an outcome. It is a result of an interaction with knowledge, attitudes, and perceptions. How we behave, how we respond to something is based on what we know, our experiences to it, and what are the attitudes and perceptions that we develop that will then allow us to make that mental determination of how we behave. So behavior is fundamental to the pursuit of our response to COVID-19 and in fact the outcome that we hope to achieve as well.
Okay. And just following up on that, would you say, so their behavior, so the behaviors, that is the actions, the things we do or how we respond, but would you say that both action, or as humans, our action and inaction is also undermining when we think of vaccinations in this whole sphere?
Certainly. We have a particular diversity of response globally to vaccinations. We have a lot of interest in vaccination. We have people that are desperate for vaccines. We have people that are seeking vaccines but have no access to vaccines. And of course, we have some component of society that have some hesitation, some resistance towards even receiving that level of vaccination. So that behavior spectrum does exist.
Right?
Doc, good morning again to you. One of the things I wanted to get your take on is the issue of how, and I heard you mention it, knowledge as part of the behavior aspect of how we deal with viruses and what happens. And the whole issue of social media interaction, this is a new medium of spreading knowledge. However, it is highly unfiltered. And we get to a point where there is so much different theories put out there. Some may be false, some may be not. But we don't have the ability to filter information as we used to in the past, where we would go in a library, we see a book, we see a put out by a certain printer, and you know it's good information. No, that doesn't exist. Everything comes to you instantly and at a speed of light, and people absorb it at different rates and different understanding. How is that influencing the behavior, in particular to the ordinary person in our population here, the young people, where we seem to have the highest hesitancy, to vaccination, and generally to things in the medical area? How is that now playing and influencing what is happening with the vaccine hesitation? And from your perspective, what are the sort of policies? I know in public health, there are areas that you look at for how to deal with hesitancy, what kind of information you put it out, how you put it out, and the campaigns. What is your view on that whole social media interaction, and how could we solve it based on what we do?
I believe that will be the most telling factor in terms of how we reach out and how we access the communities to get involved in vaccinations. Social media, in fact, is the new norm. It is a new norm in terms of how we interact, in terms of how we receive as well. But social media, I believe, is a platform, like any other platform. It's how we use it, how we engage it. That is what's important. In terms of information is important, but understanding that information is equally important as well. And that is where literacy comes in. Rightfully, people receive information across all different angles and perspectives in social media. At the same time they receive the correct information, they receive also incorrect information as well. I encourage persons to seek out the correct information, seek out real-world evidence that's occurring before our very eyes. We are seeing countries on social media that are managing, controlling, and returning to conventional social interactions by virtue of a mass expanded vaccination program that's on social media. Access that information. We are seeing communities that are seeking vaccinations but have no access to vaccination. That is on social media. In Grenada has been very fortunate, not only in avoiding the virus, but also when the virus enters Grenada, so suppressing the virus with efficiency. Having said that, though, you also have access to vaccines, and that is not the standard that exists around the world. So with that information, there's a lot of encouragement and support for persons to pursue vaccines. I would just like to preface, though, a comment that I think, in my mind, helps me to understand the context of vaccination. I hope it helps with you and your listening and viewing audience. I believe that in order to know where you are in life and where you're going, it is good to consider where you came from. The term vaccination, vacca, means cow in Latin. And back in the 18th century, Edward Jenner, as part of the smallpox outbreak that was occurring in Europe, he observed among the mass of death and disease that was occurring around him, persons who were milking the dairy cattle, they seemed to be devoid of actually the smallpox plague. And when he questioned and examined why, he found little vessels, little pustules on the mammary glands of cows. And he suggested, hypothesized, that the material in those vesicles or lesions on the cows, they may have conferred some level of protection or immunity to those who were milking them. He began an experiment to transfer the material from those cowpox pustules onto people, and that led to immediate success. That was in the 18th century, our recorded understanding and origin of vaccination. Think 100 years ago, guys. 100 years ago was 1921. just after World War II, and just coming out of a pandemic.
World War One.
Back then, 100 years ago, our life expectancy was on average around 40 years of age. Today, our average life expectancy is a minimum around 75 years. Women live longer than men, but that's a separate conversation.
Yes,
But we have,
totally.
but we have gained about 35 years of life expectancy. Why is that? Primarily because of vaccination. We have controlled several of the communicable diseases that were causing early onset of childhood death and disease. Recently, as in the past 30, 40 years, some of you, whether in your own upper arms or no relatives, have that scar from the BCG vaccine for tuberculosis. So we have a long history of vaccination. We have been tried, tested, and proven to advance society, advance our well-being through the mechanism of vaccination. In the past 15 or 20 years, the world have been very busy in designing, developing different vaccinations. We have vaccines for cervical cancer, human papillomavirus. We have vaccines for the Ebola virus. So vaccination is considered a very safe, a very successful intervention as it relates to controlling diseases. And there is no difference in terms of how we should consider and the approach and the outcome as well for COVID-19.
Doc, again, we are really pleased to have an expert in behavioral science generally, and this is so important because you've hit all the correct points on the Grenada situation, but yet we have a population of 110, 115,000. We have only 18,000 persons who have taken the first shot, and just over 9,000 both shots. So hesitancy level remains extremely high for several reasons. One of the reasons, for example, put forward is that, well, you know, the FDA only gave, or the WHO only gave emergency use of the various vaccines. There wasn't an overall approval, or you hear that it is still experimentation. It's unknown in terms of infection and transmission and details. And of course, you touched a lot on the conspiracy theory, the social media, and what's happening there and what should happen. But looking at overall, because the hesitancy level is a behavioral response from persons regarding the vaccine. How I mean, as you look at not only Grenada, because in the region we have generally high hesitancy level, but looking at it overall, what can we do different? What do we need to do to raise that critical level to have a better population immunity going forward?
Sure. Well, you guys are doing that to begin with by having this conversation, by having this effort to engage the community. So that's one approach. And that engagement hopefully should drive the knowledge, attitudes, and perceptions to inform the behavior to seek the vaccination. In order for me to understand and respond to the hesitancy questions, I need to understand what is the existing knowledge and understanding as it relates to the hesitancy. Why is that? You mentioned a couple of, it's an emergency approval. Well, to be honest with you, we are in an emergency. So the reality is we need this approval to respond to this emergency.
Correct.
Having said that, though, it's an emergency, yes, but these vaccines, the initiative, the AstraZeneca vaccine, for example, is actually a protein, a spike protein from the virus of the COVID-19 that is located in a vehicle, an adenovirus. And adenovirus is a known agent that delivers vaccines. It's a virus that does not allow for viruses to replicate itself. That's been very successful. We have that for AstraZeneca. So it's an emergency setting, no doubt, it's a pandemic, but the approval is based on significant levels of investigations, of explorations, and effectiveness studies. You also mentioned a hesitancy has to do probably with the pace of the vaccine development. It was done too fast. Well, it depends on how you look at it. If you are building the first vehicle, that would have taken a lot of years. But with each year, with each model, with each design, you have a template to work with.
Correct.
You have a foundation to work with. So the pace in which you can actually turn around different designs, different models of vehicles occurs at a very fast rate now in this world. Similarly for vaccines. We have been doing this for hundreds of years. And with the effort, the technology, with the resources and the people that's involved in vaccination and its development, there is no doubt that the pace is quite understandable and it's quite appropriate as well. Another hesitation that I believe that I have encountered has to do with the premise that different brands have different effectiveness and different vaccine developers and companies are producing different levels of success. Well, I do not subscribe to that. What I subscribe to is the fact that in real world evidence, again, that we're seeing on social media, that we're seeing before our very eyes, every single vaccine that is applied to any given community in any given population is having its desired effect, which is initially beginning to reduce and eventually suppress the disease and the death associated with the vaccine. Persons may ask, well, if I receive the vaccine, I may still get infected. Quite possibly, the potential is there. But although you are infected, the likelihood of succumbing to significant or even mild symptoms, and certainly death, is effectively of minimal risk. In fact, there's little evidence that I have currently, that I have been exploring the literature, the news, the scientific journals, that demonstrates that the vaccines have led to significant consequences. Now, you will hear conversations in social media and elsewhere that there are clots, that there are other side effects of vaccines. Well, clots and other side effects occur in everything. It occurs in our lifestyles, it occurs in other medications as well that we use. It occurs with sedentary lifestyle. It occurs with smoking behavior. So these risk factors are not isolated to vaccination only. It's part of our social reality that exists today as well. So all of these challenges that purports to create concern about vaccination, I believe there is an effective response and a reaction for the communities, for the individuals, to be able to receive and to understand that philosophy. Ultimately, though, we want to understand the phrase that's circulating around the world, that no one is safe unless everyone is safe.
Correct.
And at this point in time, what provides that final level of safety, in addition to the public health measures, in addition to the official's response to testing, tracing, and treating, is that of vaccination. It has been done historically, and it's being currently done today, and we really want to encourage and support persons to get on board with this global, country, and individual response to COVID-19.
Dr. Badassi, in terms of the control and containment of this infectious disease and us wanting to get back to social and cultural norms, so to speak, how do you see, especially in the case of our island, Grenada? Yes, we managed we managed well in terms of containment and the spread of the virus. But now with vaccinations, are so anxious to get back to where we were. But at the same time, the fact that we have a very low vaccination rate, it's kind of threatening. I mean, our moving forward. So how do you see what's a consequence for us? And I want you to be really open and honest here.
So maybe I can reflect on the context of Trinidad and Tobago right now. We have, of course, as you guys mentioned, 557 plus deaths associated with COVID-19. We have over 26,000 cases as reported, currently around 10,000 active cases. Now these are stark realities, not just in the context of COVID-19, but in the context of Trinidad and Tobago. A lot of these severe complications and deaths are associated with comorbidities. These comorbidities include diabetes, hypertension. These conditions are also synonymous with the disease burdens of Grenada. If COVID-19 were to engage in community spread, family spread in Grenada, with underlying comorbidities, including diabetes and hypertension, then I suspect that the reality per capita, of course, for Grenada may reflect what we are observing in Trinidad and Tobago right now, and that is the reality of it. The virus will come in. I mean, the virus has come in to Grenada. I mean, it's a global experience. In fact, for those of you who are having your breakfast right now, if you look at the contents of your breakfast, it's a global product. The cereal, the juice, or whatever else you're consuming comes from different countries around the world. Similarly, this variants, will come from different countries around the world. And here we have an effective solution to be able, not necessarily to prevent infection, but certainly to prevent disease and death. And to me, I will take that outcome any day when compared to the diseases and deaths that we are experiencing currently in Trinidad and Tobago. I also think that in Trinidad and Tobago, while you guys are reporting low levels of vaccine coverage, we also have that. Now, that's going to change in the days and weeks to come.
Oh, yeah.
But currently, we have less than 1,200 persons in this country that is not fully vaccinated. We have about 116,000 that receive first doses. But that low level of vaccine coverage, I also believe, contributed to this current surge in cases and deaths that we are experiencing. So the common component of this equation, in terms of preventing, in terms of suppressing, is that of vaccination. We have done all the public health measures. For the most part, we have been doing testing, tracing, and treating, for the most part. But the vaccination is really and truly our only way out of this current surge. And I would not want for Grenada to go through the emotions and the experiences, because it's an emotional as much as a physical reality that Trinidad and Tobago is experiencing currently. And I would not want that for any country, in particular Grenada, which I consider to be a second home as well.
Doc, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Byron.
Okay, Doc, yeah, I mean, look, what I want you to explain for us now is the question of risk and choices, because it comes down, a lot of persons say, oh, we've been told, look, you have to balance the risk and then a choice. Could you elaborate on that process for us a bit, have a better understanding of the risk involved and how persons should evaluate the risk in terms of making choices on this matter?
Sure. So, and that's probably the best defense for vaccination right now, because if you were to weigh the risk and benefits or the cost and effectiveness of it, there are different ways in which we can consider that. Let's take the health first of all. Without the vaccine, I am significantly more at risk to disease and death. With the vaccine, I am significantly more protected against disease and death. The levels of significance vary, but we're speaking about in 99-point-something% of effectiveness in preventing disease and death. That goes without saying that the benefits far outweigh any potential or perceived risk, hands down. Let's think about the society, the economy. Well, I am of the view that a healthy worker is a productive worker. A productive society is based on a healthy workforce, healthy population. It goes together. We cannot be productive from an economic perspective, from a social perspective, if we are not healthy. So the benefits of advocating for a healthy society is a healthy economy. And the risk involved is being unhealthy and compromising your social and your economic, not just development, but also sustainability in the medium to long term.
I want to, Doc, follow up on your last comment about a healthy worker. You know, obviously leads to a healthy society and productivity. And you know, there's a big conversation going on now about in the work environment, how do we treat COVID? Do we treat it as a disease that is going to be affecting the work environment, where it's going to be almost a health and safety issue, because we under the employer is under the remit that he has to keep a healthy environment, and if we bring in an infectious worker, or the possibility and the risk of that, how it affects the environment, versus the option where some employers are saying that, listen, we can't force you to take the vaccine, but we are going to say that if you have to come into our environment, you need to be a worker of a certain health You need to be vaccinated. You need to have whatever health protocols in place so that you don't put our environment at risk. And the question here is, how do you see us balancing that? Because I can tell you from where I sit in my industry, we have already gotten letters saying to us, they don't expect our workers to come on certain business premises unless our workers are vaccinated. So it puts an interesting twist on this in that if you come in, for example, I don't want nobody coming home in my home to service my air conditioning units if I can't show that they're vaccinated, because I believe they'll put my home and my people in my home at risk. So how do we balance that? And to say that, okay, yes, you have a right to refuse, but at the same time, your refusal is going to threaten my environment.
That's a divide that does exist, and it refers to the argument about individual rights versus collective good. And that debate occurs across many fields. It occurred in Ebola, when people had an individual right to essentially prevent being isolated. But what about the collective good in terms of you serving as a conduit or mechanism for spreading a significantly communicable disease and a highly fatal disease as well? If I can draw your recollection to chikungunya in Grenada some years ago. Now, I can remember when chikungunya entered in Grenada and was part of the reality that existed. Many businesses, many operations
That's right.
were short of workers. Mm-hmm. And that was a vector-borne disease that was not even as highly communicable as COVID-19. The point I'm making is that we have some experience to draw reference to. But with COVID-19 is even more pronounced, because here we have a respiratory transmitted infection that can, certainly one person can have an impact in a community. And in fact, in Trinidad and Tobago, I would hazard a hypothesis that one or a few persons would have brought that virus in that is compromising an entire country right now. So if you were to scale that down to a business or an enterprise, one person can change the entire dynamic of the collective population of that business, of that enterprise, or that country as well. So this is a reality that we're dealing with, where we have rights, yes, but we also have a responsibility as part of that right to recognize the part that we play and serve in promoting our own health, as well as the health of others as well. And that, I think, is going to serve as a major emphasis for us to really focus on as we encourage persons and support them to access the available vaccines that are in Grenada and elsewhere.
And just a leader, sorry, Brenda, I suppose, Doc, I will have to throw this to you as a professional and expert in the area. We will certainly have to do a study on long haulers disease and the possible effect on productivity in businesses as well.
Yeah.
Because we are seeing that COVID comes with certain, diseases are accelerated, or respiratory issues, circulatory issues, and how that is going to impact on us in terms of sick leave, the cost of the health system, and of course the issue of productivity. And I suspect that's an area you will have to engage in study very shortly for us to understand what is going to happen there as this disease prolongs and stays with us and we don't get quickly onto the vaccination train.
Yeah. And by an extension from that point of view, Grenada is part of a wider region and a wider world as well. The world is moving on in terms of how they are responding to COVID-19. And with the common phrase that no one is left behind, we all do not want to be left behind as well. And as a country, as a people, we want to be part of the solution and not the problem. You know, I can remember my mom many years ago when I had hair in my head, as a kid. No offense to you, Mr. Campbell, no offense at all. I remember the story that she told me, and that story actually is retained in my memory, especially in the current pandemic that we're facing with. And the story that she related to me back then was there was this little bird laying on its back with its feet stuck up in the air. And this hawk came next to the bird. "What are you doing with your little feet stuck up in the air?" The little bird responded, "Well, I heard a rumor that the sky is going to fall. And the hawk said, and what? You're going to stop the sky from falling with those puny, woony little legs of yours? The little bird said, I am going to do what I can. You know, the moral of that story to me, especially in this current context. Now, while by no stretch of the imagination, this little bird would prevent the sky from falling. But if every little bird put their feet against the sky, and for some reason the sky attempts to fall, we will all stop it from falling.
Yeah.
And that is a collective consciousness and the collective response that we need in terms of how we respond and overcome this COVID-19 pandemic, globally speaking, and of course for Grenada as well.
Right. So we're now in the hurricane season, and how do you see this climatic condition further threatening and already at risk a public health situation for us?
Sure. So a couple of reasons. One is that as we observe in temperate countries, when it gets cooler, when the external environment becomes less conducive to outdoor environments, we tend to be more indoors, and congregate more. Sometimes, though, with inclement weather, with environments that are not supporting outdoor environments, whether it's muddy fields or just rain in general, indoor behavior is not supportive of preventing a respiratory transmitted virus. That's one point. The other point I want to raise as it relates to changes, with rainfalls, we have other diseases to be concerned about. We have dengue fever to be concerned about. We have leptospirosis from moist, watery environments to be concerned about. We do not want to compound our regular challenges, which we do a very good job in controlling, with an outbreak of a respiratory transmitted virus like COVID-19. So we have a lot of opportunities going into the season to ensure that we are all protected from COVID-19 so that we can be able to manage more effectively the other challenges that we have to deal with. You see, any virus, including COVID-19.
Doc, not to ask you to be a futurist here, but based on all the evidence around what's happening, the realities, the situation, what's your projection going forward in a year time? What do you anticipate? Are you an optimist here or a pessimist here? How do you see the future here?
I'm an optimist to begin with. You know, I have to be for my own sanity, but also for projections as part of life as well. I project that as more and more people see the value, see the benefits, experience what other countries are experiencing, with that knowledge, with that experience to draw reference from hopefully second-hand experience and not first-hand experience, that will inform the right attitudes and perceptions as it relates to the behavior to seek the vaccination. I am mindful in saying that, however, that I do not expect COVID-19 to be eliminated by any stretch of the imagination. I expect COVID-19 to be part of the endemic disease burden, or at least the viral burden that we will have. Coronaviruses are not new for us. We know about coronaviruses. In fact, coronaviruses is part of the normal common cold. We know about the SARS outbreak back in 2003, sudden acquired respiratory syndrome. We know about the Middle Eastern respiratory syndrome in 2013, 2014. So coronaviruses are around. But what we want to ensure is that we are well, we are healthy, and we are productive in spite of the coronaviruses being around as well at the same time.
Well, thank you so very much, Dr. Badassi. We really appreciate you waking up early there in Trinidad this morning and, of course, transmitting very, very, very important information to us. Trust you shall return to your second home very soon.
Definitely, I am planning on it. I am due to receive my second vaccination on the 25th of June. I will observe and obey the 14-day minimum requirement to ensure full immunity, and I'll be preparing to return, and I believe I'll be joining Senator Bialy on the morning walks when I do return.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Please stay safe there in Trinidad.
Yeah.
Of course, wear your mask, continue to watch your distance, and we look forward to seeing you again. Thank you so very much. Appreciate it.
Take care, guys. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
bye-bye. All right, so that was Dr. Satish Vadasi of St. George's University. We'd like to thank St. George's University, Karine Clement. Thank you so very much. You're a star. Truly, truly appreciated. And all of you who are online with us, appreciate it. Eddie Frederick, good morning. I trust you enjoyed their conversation. I know you're all tuned in for that. So, gentlemen.
Yeah, well, but I know we have to wrap it up, so I'm going to be very short. I, like Byron, just want to say, boy, let us get vaccinated. And it's still free. We have the schedules coming out every week. Let's go. I'm due to get my second shot tomorrow, and trust me, I'm heading there very early to get mine.
Nice.
I'm waiting my 2 weeks to make sure I'm 100%.
Nice.
Wishing all a positive week.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yeah, wishing all a really, really good week. The GCNA Father's Day is coming up.
Gift pack.
It's the third Sunday, and they thinking GCNA has thought about fathers really early. So GCNA, we commend you for that. Fathers always complain. Is either there's a hook and a fishing rod or a bottle of rum. No. You're not an afterthought at all. So get, all things, a real good taste of Grenada here. Everything's in here. This is a nice gift to give a dad. So get them at the All Things Nutmeg. I'm sure they'll send this out to other outlets as well.
Yes.
Okay, great. So look for this. All right.
I am the
Special
only
package
dad
from
here
the
that is going to
GCNA.
get this gift.
Seems so.
Because you can't get it.
It seems so. It seems so.
Happy
Are you going to
Father's Day.
present it?
Happy Father's Day.
Thank you,
Senator
GCNA. Thank you, Byron. I think it's a lovely pack. It's so
Nazim,
lovely.
happy Father's Day.
Yeah.
You get this one.
Yeah.
Cook, not yet. Blondell? Happy Father's Day. All right.
Yeah.
So thank you, everyone. Mr. Campbell, thank you. Have a great week. Senator Diali.
Thank you.
Next week,
I
we
will.
expect a full report on the Senate.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not
most
just about the
definitely.
bills, but really how they impact our lives.
Yeah.
Yes. And,
Yeah.
actually, we're supposed to be meeting again tomorrow to conclude. So hopefully.
So upon your conclusion, you provide us with how
Most-
the bills you've passed
Most definitely.
will change our lives and
Yeah.
impact our lives. Thanks, everyone. Have a really good Monday. For everyone here, the production team, Richie Oliver, our executive producer, Kishang Thomas, Nazim Benjamin, who provided the professional streaming services for us, Blondell George and Kirk Oliver, and Brenda Batiste. Bye-bye.
Bye.